I thought that since people's problems were suggesting themselves to me in a particular pattern this week, I thought I would just give their problems the opportunity to find their way into the Sunday morning talk. It's an interesting thing, this spiritual path of ours. How I guess we do need gurus. I guess we do. I mean, they don't seem to be just an extra thumb or little finger. They seem to have some purpose through the Lord's wish on this planet. I just thought I'd talk about some of the situations, and then I'm going to make it open to any problems that you might have in your mind. Devotee just received a mantra, just been initiated. Oh, Guruji, I don't know what it is, but I'm chanting along, and suddenly I can't breathe. I don't know what to do, but I just start, and then I gag. So I said, well, please chant. The chanting was beautiful. I said, you're fighting it. Why don't you just, now you've gone as far as you can, and in about chanting it about 6 times, the devotee said, couldn't breathe. Okay, now back off, relax your chest, start again. Now keep chanting it, and if it gets uncomfortable, just stop. Never strain in yoga. Do it again. So start it again. And by just relaxing, this beaming smile comes, and he's able to go on and on and on. I said, well, you see, you're crossing the barrier. There's a place when you're chanting your mantra where your breath becomes very still. Your heart becomes very calm if you let it. And you cross from external consciousness into samadhi. And your mantra is trying to take you into samadhi. Now, if your ego thinks, hey, my breath's getting shallow, my heart's getting too calm, then it will make you feel, I gotta breathe, make you feel this discomfort, and you'll breathe again. Fine. So just take one more run at it. And if that run, you don't go into samadhi, fine, wait until another day. Samadhi is a communion experience with the Lord. You're personally able to experience spiritual communion with the Lord. So just take one more run at it while concentrating on being relaxed, and either you go into samadhi or you get that tension again. Bit by bit, day by day, that extra run at it makes it clear to your mind you're wanting to go that way when the systems are go. So what happened was, he said, that's beautiful. As a result of just taking another run at it, instead of being scared, just relaxing, perfectly relaxing, going back in, it's beautiful. It is. Why does the heart have to calm down and the breath have to calm down? In order to experience this subtle, very high state of awareness, the energy has to leave just physical survival. It has to leave preoccupation with heartbeat and physical body, has to leave the sense drain on the heart. And so you get very calm and you get able to be so still and so quiet that it's just natural. So that's worth mentioning if any of you have joined our band recently. That's a wonderful thing. But you see, that's almost, I hate to tell you this, almost a guru's job. Anything they think's wonderful, tell them it's terrible, it's just a step on the way. And anything that's horrible, you tell them it's wonderful. But the only thing, you've got to be careful. You've got to be careful, because sometimes they say it's horrible, they may be right. You see, that's where you have to have some practice, When they say it's horrible, you might have to say, you're right. Interesting. Next, 2 devotees this week said that they sensed that there was a negative presence in their house or around. Well, first off, are there negative presences? Well, there are crooks and rapists and all kinds of cruddy behaving people running around on the streets. Should we expect less of the astral world? There are cruddy thought forms and cruddy beings running around the astral world too. You can have mayhem on a thought level. I mean, haven't you ever noticed somebody's stinking thought is so strong sometimes you can feel it in the Well, yes, there are such things. But to a yogi, this is hardly ever a problem at all, because if the yogi's mind is on God, you won't experience those. If your mind is on the Lord will protect you from those negative forces, and you won't even have to pay attention when you're going high and when you're coming back down into physical awareness. But if your attention's not on the Lord, and who can keep their attention on the Lord all the time anyway? Very few people. So if your attention's not on the Lord, you may go through being aware that there is such a place as the lower astral world. Cruddy beings trying to menace you and snort at you. I recall a story of a Swami who was studying with Paramahansa Yogananda, and he was just a duffer from the East Coast. He didn't know much about any of these spiritual things, and Yogananda said, there actually are spirits, He said, you shouldn't worry about it, because when you're thinking of God, you're being protected all the time, and you're going from material consciousness to spiritual consciousness. There's an intermediate world which you just don't have to pay attention to, because you'll be able to make it back and forth easily. And that's so true, so true. Anyway, there are spirits. For example, Yogananda said, there are tree spirits, good tree spirits and bad tree spirits. Tree spirits, yes, spirits that occupied trees. Trees. Well, what happened was, this guy got very interested. Instead of thinking, wow, I better stay away from that realm, he began thinking, I'd like to see one. I'd like to see one of those tree spirits. So he subtly, not exactly asked God, but he subtly said, I'd like to see one of you tree spirits. Okay. And his last name was Walters. And so late at night, there's this incredible stomping down the hallway of the dormitory at Self-Realization Fellowship. And there's a fresh, young, new monk in what used to be Walter's room. And he's pounding on the door, saying, let me in, and various things like that. And the guy is petrified. And this evil spirit said, where's Walters? I want Walters, And he's not here, He's not here. He doesn't live here anymore. And, so the guy goes stalking down the hall toward Walter's new room. And this young Mr. Walters said, this evil spirit starts coming into his room, and suddenly he feels himself going out of the body, leaving his body to, you're getting shivers, aren't you? He feels himself going out of the body to this jolly green evil spirit. This massive, scary, scary thing, just apparently was petrifying. And so he feels, yikes, this evil spirit's actually taking me out of my body. So at that point, he just starts chanting, Yogananda, Guruji, Yogananda. He starts chanting Yogananda's name, the name of his protective guru. And he goes back into his body, and the spirit just goes away. So, as a result, he became a believer that there were evil spirits. And there are chanting the name of God, or just feel like you're standing in the Lord's consciousness. Like the Lord surrounds you protectively. Stand inside the feeling that the Lord's love and light or being surround you. Tell it to go in the name of, and then say the name, the powerful name of the form of God you love. Tell it out. You can do it a nicer way, but I think this way is better. But the other way is say, you poor negative force. I'll now pray for your well-being. Let go of this planet. This is not the place for you. In the name of, then you name the Lord. In the name of, I ask you to let go of this place and time, and I pray that you be sped forward in your growth toward love, light, and perfection, and I will pray toward that end for you. Then you just start praying, and then anything that you're aware of in the astral world, you're capable of dealing with through imagination, through saying to your mind, okay, my mind is aware of this cruddy thing. What can I be aware of that will deal with this? And the Lord will inspire your mind with the concept of some counter force or counter being that will go and deal with it. However, it's much easier to think of your Ishta, the form of God you love, dealing directly with the spirit. Negative presences, sometimes people who wish you ill. They've made a big mistake by wishing anyone ill, but their thought forms go to that place and say, I don't wish you ill, I wish you well. But this is not your place. This place, in the name of the Lord, belongs to the Lord who has provided it to me. I ask that you leave, or I tell you to leave, or I command that you leave, in the name of, and just feel shielded there until that force is gone. The great help for me in this was being a mystic for about 8 years, because we learned a lot about these things, seeing them and telling them where to go, and helping them to go where they weren't so miserable. They're just miserable. Surrounding yourself with your fingertips, feeling you're drawing a circle of love and light into which nothing can penetrate, that helps. Okay. Next, thoughts of dying. People are having thoughts of dying. One of our devotees spoke of lately, over the past few weeks, and I'm going to combine this with another question. Over the past few weeks, she has felt strong fear of being killed or meeting death, like in a car or in some other way, just the possibilities of dying left and right, and thinks it's pretty scary. Well, I submitted to this person that they might be doing that area of their sadhana where they're striving to renounce the word mine. I and mine are some of the main delusions we have, bringing about so many other delusions. I said, I've had that one years ago. And what that is all about, in almost every case, is a devotee on the path, when they come to the conclusion, I don't want to be the boss. I don't want to be so bossy. I don't want to feel that everything they're doing is wrong and it's mine, this kind of thing. I want to be a more conscious being. I want to be freer in the Lord. Well, what happens is there are 5 kleshas. You recall ignorance and egoism, immoderate liking, immoderate disliking, possessiveness. Possessiveness is being dealt with here. When you think of everything as yours, even if it's not yours at all, and you're busy wanting it to be treated this way or this way or this way, what's happening is you're building up your ego of ownership, your ego of possession. Now, the most possessive we are, generally, as a human being, is of our body. In our mind, we think we own and run the body. My body. And so whatever threatens the body makes our ego uptight. So obviously you're going in a car, you fear you might get killed in the car. You go around a bend, you're afraid you're going to get killed over the bend. Walk down a street, a safe might fall on you. Or you might trip and fall and your head might whack the lamppost just wrong and that's it for your deck or something. What happens as a result of trying to let go of egoistic ownership and move into God's ownership is you get to the point where you're afraid of dying. Now, this fear of dying in this way is very good. It's very good because you come to an amazing realization that that part of your mind which is so afraid of your dying can't do anything to prevent it. Some great jazz great was hit by a ricochet bullet. I forget who it was, but a bullet just ricocheted around the room and killed him. It would have taken a masterstroke of fate to even come close to hitting him, but it hit him so accurately it killed him, just bouncing around the room. Your mind cannot maintain your life. Your mind is there to help, to give you awareness and caution, but the ego suffers, and one of the reasons that we have such a strong ego is that it's trying to keep us alive. It's afraid that we'll be killed by the hordes of avenging whoever's. And the idea is that through meditation you begin to realize your ego cannot keep you alive. It's not its department. That something bigger than your ego keeps you alive. Not every day only, but every second. There's a high, great, wonderful power that sustains your life. Without this high, wonderful power sustaining your life, you're dead. And you have to get to the point where you accept that. I cannot keep myself alive. I can look after, my mind should be a good steward, look after this body as much as it can. But it can't keep my being alive for a second. Somehow God, the divine, is maintaining and sustaining every cell in my body, every cell in my bones and in my brain, every cell. And what happens as a result of this fear of death and beginning to realize the frailty of our ego, that it can't, just going into that more and more, suddenly comes great relaxation. That our possessiveness of the body has always been an error, a big mistake. It's not going to keep the body alive. It can look after the body. It's not going to be able to do it. And then you begin to realize, hey, you mean God? God, whom I may not even suspect exists, but God, or some higher power, is propelling me from breath to breath, heartbeat to heartbeat. God. And what happens through that, letting go of that possessiveness of the body, you come into a most exalted state of freedom. The mind can help look after the body, but it's God's body, and God's looking after it. And it's really up to God. Not too much our ego can do. Not too much. It's like God laughs, Ramakrishna says, when people try to divide land and say, this is mine. And he also laughs when the doctor says, I'll save her. The doctor can't save her. God can. So what happens is something very beautiful in back of these thoughts of dying. And if you have thoughts of dying, it's often good. If you have thoughts of being very calm in dreams, you're very calm and you die, it's a sign that you're preparing for the death of the ego and a spiritual life. You're dead and you're very calm about it. On the other hand, if you're afraid, then it's that old painful ego trying to mastermind everything and make this body of mine live, which it's not capable of doing. The ego isn't God, not capable. Okay. Next. 2 devotees have told me on the same subject that the idea of physical death is really scary and painful. To ponder that one day they are going to die. The frightening thing. And let me tell you first that even Sri Yukteswar, one of the wisest people who ever lived, when he heard from one of his chelas a message from Babaji saying, it's about time for you to leave the body, it really bugged him for about 4 hours. Just the thought of vacating this familiar body, it was a shock to him. So, really high beings are afraid at times. But as a result of discrimination, he became calm about it within about 4 hours and became ready to do it. Well, let me tell you what the scriptures say and what the Lord has spoken in many religions. Accept this fact. You will never die. You're not going to die. You're not going to die. one day the body is just not going to be able to keep up with where you want to be. And you're going to shed your body. You're going to just let it drop. You will never die. Your body is just not going to keep up with your glimpse of God, with your realization of the possibilities of life. And as a yogi, generally as a yogi, as a meditative yogi, you're going to know so much about the inner self that you're going to be able to just let it go like a leaf. Now, it may be that there will be last-minute fears and doubts, and I don't know if I want to let go, and there will be a transitional battle of wanting the body, and can I let go, and what if I'm not, and that kind of thing. There may be that transitional battle. Okay, chant the Lord's name. But the fact of the matter is, and you may as well think it now because it's the truth, and you may as well live with it, you're not going to die. You are never going to die. Someday, as a result of your walk with God, there will be the taking off of your external coat and the moving on to a higher and more wonderful place. But just don't think about dying. Think that someday you are going to let go of your body. You're not going to die. You're really not going to die. You're not. If you want to know what death is, I'll tell you what death is. It's not abiding in God. To ignore God, or to say there is no God, or to say there is no soul, that's death. And that's about the only death there is. You're not going to die. Don't even prepare for dying. Prepare for one day your body's not going to keep up. You're going to let go. Generally with God's help and with God's presence. Don't think any other way. Any other way is inaccurate. Any other problems or questions about anything I've talked about? Possession is an interesting phenomenon. It's like nobody's possessed without some kind of invitation. People who have hallucinations about being great usually are most prey to welcoming some kind of possession, something to come in and dominate their life and mind. And at first there's a tremendous sense of power because they've got more power than they ever dreamed, and now they're sure they're right. But they begin to make less and less sense and begin to make more and more declarations. I've seen it several times. It's a person wanting to be important very often, spiritually important, or have this great mission far beyond what the ordinary people know, but this high, exalted, super mission, Like one guy I know felt that he was the reincarnation of Christ. And he was going door to door trying to make his presence known, but he was saying it was just like when he was here before. Real rough time, making yourself known as Christ. And he was afraid of crucifixion. He didn't know how they were going to do it, but he was just going to keep on the move and knocking on those doors, but they were after him to crucify him. It's a tragic thing. But this was the same person who had astral ability and who would pry into people's life. He would say, I see you're having sex with such and such, and then he'd watch your aura to find out if it was true or not. By the reaction of people, so he was a snoopy, prying person. He used to say to women, I can tell you you've had this or that operation, because he could see the astral scars, the scars in their astral body, and just embarrass people and try to read their minds, do all kinds of things. So he began to realize how great he was then. The calling from above began to come on him, and he would just spend hours listening to God and all these high beings beseeching him to do his mission that he had come to do. It's an interesting thing. When I was a mystic, so many were convinced that they had come to do healing work and everything, and I was just being myself. They were wondering what great saint, what great being I was. And finally, because I wouldn't volunteer anything, they became convinced from on high I was an avatar. So, and you see, part of the idea is, if they make me an avatar, you see, then I'm dependent on them because, they made me an avatar. And then the advantage is, though, that I am then to reflect authority on what they think. Yes, you are the reincarnation of San Sebastian, or something or other. And it goes on like that. It's tragic. It's people who can't pay attention to life, here and now, and they think their part is too meager. And it's just like people who want to be gurus. Just about anybody who wants to be a guru will never be a guru. Look at Taku. And look at Christ. His world gurus. They would say they were nothing. They would empty themselves completely. Then God could use them. They'd empty themselves. And God is the guru. God, through various people who are willing to be empty, can function in this particular way. It's a tragic thing. Everybody who's full wants to be blown up to the breaking point, and then they've got this great world mission. It's tragic. It's utterly tragic, but it goes on. You can almost tell the difference between those who are true devotees and those who are unfortunate, mentally, emotionally ill people. And it has to do with their sense of who they are on the spiritual path. It's kind of like you get the spiritual path, finally you're important. And in a way it's true. Finally you're important in your awareness of your importance to God. God loves you as a person. But God is just strangely not overly doting on these people. He loves everybody. God loves everybody. But people who come out with a feeling of an exclusive love from God to them, exclusive. It's too bad. It's too bad. And there are other signs too. These special missions, like we say we have a mission. It was a mission we were told we had, and I think we do. It's unique to us in that other people aren't doing it yet. But one of our great joys is going to be when other people all over the place want to do their part toward doing these various things. And is it our feeling of wanting to direct and lead them? Just to share and help as best we can. If we have to guide, fine. But gee whiz, we genuinely want to help people be free to experience their spiritual destiny. And we're also aware that there's truth in other things. Like, what's one of the main definitions of a cult? It's defined in a magazine I've got as a body of people, a religious community, which deviates from the norm and which feels its way is the only way. Ramakrishna came to show that all the main religions were given by God to man, and if we could just love and respect that truth. And so it goes. It goes on and on. But people who go really kind of schizophrenic and who are possessed in this way, they get the thrill of being really important for maybe the rest of their life. And they get the feeling that this or that sign from God, like maybe they happen to kick a candy bar wrapper, and they open it and they read it and and it says lucky day or something like that. Oh, yes, Lord, thank you for this lucky day. And they talk about living in blessing. One day, a guy who lived on Mount Shasta came through town, and I gave him food to help sustain him. He went out the door, he threw it away, he says, kind of like that deluded man. I don't need food from anyone. I will have food wherever I need it. So, all this nice food to help this guy keep his body together. And where did he get it? He got his money to buy his food by playing in the musical comedy, or whatever it's called, Hair, where you undress and everything and shout and scream rock and roll. That's how God provided the way for him. They thought he looked so hairy and so ready to play that, they just drafted him into a company. So God's way. God's way for an avatar to be running around playing in hair, throwing salads to the side. Okay. Staying sane is one of the hardest things because it involves so much ego bruising. What? I have inadequacies? What? I pulled a stupid one? What? They don't like me. It goes on and on. Yeah. And it's great. It's magnificent to live this daily life because just facing it and dealing with it, the truth becomes revealed and you move into the divine play of love. But it's too painful for some people. They want to be really important. And since people think, hey, you might be nice, but you're relatively mediocre like the rest of us. Mediocre? Me? I want to form my own little band who realize I'm not mediocre. And I'll do it by telling them they are to follow me and that none of us are going to be mediocre, you know? It goes on and on. Anyway, the alternatives are pretty harsh when you see people who think they're the Virgin Mary and the new avatar and on and on. They look so miserable. They have trouble just relating to what time it is and where to go next and what to wear. And they have trouble figuring out how to enjoy life, how to watch a football game. It's a tragic thing. Sanity is the truth. Anybody who is possessed or whatever, they just couldn't accept the truth. Too painful. And what is the overriding truth? God loves you as you are, with all your guck. And God is going to take you into himself, empty you of the debris, and fill you with divine nectar. The debris really tells you so much about your life, where you've been, gives you a feeling of remorse and sorrow, a corrective feeling. We want to see, ultimately, by God, the truth of all our debris, the truth of all our actions. Say, thank you, God. Like, my main sin was the first one in the book, you know. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. And that's the trickiest one, I think. That's one of the ones that just about everybody has. Thou shalt have no other gods before me, because you make resentment of the boss more important than your love for God, say. You make fear about your paycheck more important than your love of God. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. And if at this very minute in your life, right now in your heart, anything is more important than God, and God is that crazy individual character. He's so invisible, and he seems to be so patient. He's waiting way down the line for a little care and feeding. So we just keep saying, sorry, God, no room on this trip. We'll come back and get you later. If at any given moment God is more important than any other concern of yours, then you're obeying the first commandment. And you have the blessing of that. God's number one. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. That's the hardest one to keep, I think. More important than your heartbreak. More important than your fear of dying. God's more important than dying. God's more important than living. Exhilarating talking about these things. God's more important. A person who can just do the first one can do all the rest. If you can do that first commandment, everything else, easy as pie. You won't want to steal. You'll have discrimination. But wanting an experience from God is, if that's the driving force, that's a sin. It's a nice sin. It's one of your superior sins. But God's more important than your wanting God.